Hi, everybody. Bonjour. Hello. This is Miss Molinari again. I'm so happy to see you, my wonderful fabulos and fabulas. This is specifically for INDLS first grade students, but I hope lots of other friends join us to listen to some great stories. Today, I am going to record our weekly story for week 3, day 1. Sorry, there's a gnat and I missed it. Day 1 and day 2, which is 2.3 and 2.4. So that will be for Monday and Tuesday for week 3. And it is in our K-12 Young Readers Classics, K-12 Classics from page 2 to 9. Okay, so this story is called The Legend of the Dipper. And what I want to remind my wonderful friends again is our 3 times rule in reading, where the first time I want you to have your book handy, por favor, which means please, and I want you to really focus on the pictures as I read. Now, the second time you read through this story, and I know it's big, and there are a lot of big words in there, see if you can help, if you can follow along as I read. And what I'll do is I'll tell you when I get to the top of each page because this is a big, long story. And um, I don't want anybody to get to that point of frustration. The third time, if you're able to, I would like you to try and read this to your learning coach. And learning coach, you can also read it with your fabulo or fabula. And again, learning coaches, you are the real superheroes here, and you know that frustration level and what your wonderful student can help with reading. And it might be even pointing out some words that might be high frequency words or words that they can sound out here and there to help get them engaged in the story too. Okay, page 2, The Legend of the Dipper, adapted from J. Berg, Esenwein, and Marietta, Stockard. Okay. I'm going to let you pause the video, my wonderful, fabulous first grade students, and go get your book if you don't already have it. Remember, the K-12 Classics for Young Readers, Volume A. Ready? And hajime. Okay, you are back. I hope so. Okay, here we go. Page 2. Oh, I love this book, The Legend of the Dipper. And friends, I want you to look at those pictures as I read. Okay, and we're going to take a little picture walk through this first. I see on page 2 a tree, and there aren't many leaves on there. Maybe it's fall. And then on page 3, I see a young girl. I think she's got purple hair, and she's catching water in a pot. Let's turn to page 4, and I still see some leaves all around. Page 5, look at that beautiful young girl in the pretty dress. Looks like she's putting water in her hand. And do you see the dog there? The dog looks so thirsty. Turn to your learning coach. How can you tell that dog is thirsty? Okay, when we go to page 6, I see the young girl with the pot and water giving it to an older person, and I see somebody in bed. Now, do you see on page 7? There's a young girl, and hey, the pot's a different color. And I see a man in the doorway with the older woman that we saw on page 6, and I still see the leaves. Look on page 8. Oh, the pot has fallen over, but look, it's shiny and all that water. And then on page 9, it's one big picture, and I see the sky and something that kind of looks like a pot. And a man up in the sky of stars. And look at there's a woman who I think may have been the woman in bed, and an older woman in theirs. Our little beautiful girl who was so helpful in the beginning is standing there too. Okay, so we're going to go back to page 2. And if you need to pause the story because we have ants in our pants, anything like that, go ahead and then come back to it. There had been no rain in the land for a very long time. It was so hot and dry that the flowers were drooping, the grass was parched and brown, and even the big, strong trees were dying. The water dried up in the creeks and the rivers, the wells were dry, and the fountains stopped bubbling. The cows, the dogs, the horses, the birds, and all the people were so thirsty. Everyone felt uncomfortable and sick. There was one little girl whose mother grew very ill. "Oh," said the little girl, "if only I can find some water for my mother, I'm sure she will be well again. I must find some water." Page 3. And hey, maybe it's not fall. Maybe everything's very dry. Page 3. So she took a tin dipper, which I thought was a pot, and started out in search of water. By and by she found a tiny little spring way up on a mountainside. It was almost dry. The water dripped, dripped, ever so slowly from under the rock. The little girl held her dipper carefully and caught the drops. She waited and waited a long, long time until the dipper was full of water. Then she started down the mountain, holding the dipper very carefully, for she didn't want to spill a single drop. Turn the page, page 4. On the way she passed a poor little dog. He could hardly drag himself along. He was panting for breath, and his tongue hung from his mouth because it was so dry and parched. I wonder what parched means. "Oh, you poor little dog," said the little girl. "You are so thirsty. I can't pass you without giving you a few drops of water. If I give you just a little, there will still be enough for my mother." Middle of the page. So the little girl poured some water into her hand and held it down for the little dog. He lapped it up quickly, and then he felt so much better that he frisked and barked and almost seemed to say, "Thank you, little girl." And although the girl didn't notice, her tin dipper had changed into a silver dipper and was just as full as water as it had been before. She thought about her mother and hurried along as fast as she could go. When she reached home it was late in the afternoon, almost dark. The little girl pushed the door open and hurried up to her mother's room. Get ready to turn the page. When she came into the room, the old servant who had been working hard all day taking care of the sick woman came to the door. She was so tired and thirsty that she couldn't even speak to the little girl. "Do give her some water," said the mother. "She has worked hard all day and she needs it much more than I do." So the little girl held the dipper to her lips and the old servant drank some water. She felt stronger and better right away. The little girl didn't notice that the dipper had changed into gold and was just as full as water as before. Page 7. Then she held the dipper to her mother's lips, and her mother drank and drank. Oh, she felt so much better. When she had finished, there was still some water left in the dipper. The little girl was just raising it to her lips when there came a knock at the door. The servant opened it, and there stood a stranger. He was very pale and all covered with dust from traveling. "I am so thirsty," he said. "Won't you please give me a little water?" The little girl said, "Yes, I will. I am sure you need it more than I do. Drink it all." Turn the page, page 8. The stranger smiled and took the dipper into his hand, and as he took it, it changed into a dipper of pure, bright diamond. He turned it upside down, and all the water spilled out and sank into the ground. And where it spilled, a fountain bubbled up. The cool water flowed and splashed, enough for all the people and animals in the land to have all the water they wanted to drink. As they watched the water, they forgot the stranger. But presently, when they looked, he was gone. They thought they could see him just vanishing in the sky. And there in the sky, here and high, shone the diamond dipper. It shines up there yet, and its bright glow reminds people of the little girl who was so kind and unselfish. What a wonderful story. Now, mis amigas y mis amigos, do you think this is a real story, a fiction, a nonfiction, or a make-believe story, nonfiction? Could this really happen? This is a folk tale. And I want you to think about, what is the setting of the story? Where does this story take place? Who is the main character? The main character. And then I want you to think about the other characters in the story. Now, last of all, I want you to think about, what is the lesson we learn in this story? I love you so much. Yo te amo. And I will see you very, very soon. Hasta luego.